Hey buddy, this is your Squid here. So yesterday was a interesting one. So got a call from a customer. They called me up, said they just needed the spark plugs torqued on the 22-inch foot pounds. And I was just like, well, if you want me to come out just to do that, it's going to cost you so much money and all that. So they said, okay, come on out. And I went out there and found out this is a subcontractor for a big name company. The subcontractors out of California, they're up here in Oregon, working for a big name company, and that. And so I asked him, I said, so you need the spark plugs just torqued? And he said, yeah, had a code popped up, and our mechanic said just to torque the spark plugs. And so I just thought to myself, okay, I need to dive deeper into this. I asked him, I said, what was the code that came up? And he said, well, I had a misfire in cylinder number 4 and cylinder number 8. I was just like, okay, I need to look further into this. And went to the number 4 ignition coil and found it was broken. And I found out they did the spark plugs just not too long ago, but they didn't do any of the ignition coil. They just did the spark plug coils. Now, in my opinion, when you do the spark plugs, replace your coils at the same time. They didn't. And so that was one issue with the misfire. The other issue, the connector on the number 4 fuel injector was broken. The connector was just flopping loose, and that was the other issue causing the misfire. On the number 8 cylinder, the connector for the ignition coil was broken, and that was causing the issue. I told the guy, I said, you need to replace the ignition coil. Suggested replace all of them and replace those connectors. And he only wanted the ignition coil, the number 4 ignition coil done. He didn't want to spend the money on placing all the coils or doing the connectors. I'm like, okay, well, I replaced the number 4 ignition coil for him, but I washed my hands of the other stuff. I told him, I said, if you don't get that other stuff done, you're still going to have the misfires, and it can cause severe damage to your engine. And he called up his boss, and the boss said, well, can you jury rig it? I said, nope, I am not going to jury rig stuff because that's a liability, and I'm not going to do that for you. I said, what you need to do is replace all your coils and fix those connectors, and I'm going to wash my hands, and you can take it to the shop and have them do it. Now, what would you do? Would you just jury rig it like they wanted? Would you what? Me, I did the one ignition coil, got paid for time doing that and the money for the part, so hey, I made some money. But still, people nowadays, companies nowadays, they're not wanting to do total just repairs on the vehicles just to save money and time. Hey, that's on them if something happens.